Great. Hello, how are you doing today, Dr. McGrath?
I'm I'm very well, Michael. I'm just so pleased to chat with you and delighted to meet you. And already after a couple of minutes, I feel
Oh,
like we're fast friends.
it's such a
It's such a
pleasure to
pleasure.
meet you. Thank you so much. So, today is your day for the 10 big questions. So, before we go into that, I would like to introduce myself and then introduce you, and we'll start. How is that?
That sounds like a good plan.
Okay, so I'm Michael Sutton. I live in Frederick, Maryland. I am a graduate student in the clinical mental health department.
And I'm Breeda McGrath. I'm as one of the associate campus deans for online. And I just moved from Puerto Rico to Bethesda,
Oh,
Maryland.
wonderful.
Be
You're
Michael's
close by.
neighbor. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, your first question: how do you express yourself creatively?
During the pandemic, or just before the pandemic, I began taking a mosaic art class, mosaic glass. And even though I'm quite slow in my progress, I have found that mosaic art is just such a satisfying learning experience and a surprising expression,
Yes.
a surprising way to express myself. I never took art when I was growing up. Music was always my field, and I suppose just engaging with people socially. But I have found that I'm crazy about art. I always knew I liked art, but the opportunity to take a class with a very supportive teacher, I found that I'm loving it. There's some
Wonderful.
artistic expression inside me. So I can recommend mosaic art to everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Your next question is: what has been the most disturbed? Um, what has most disturbed you about the last 2 to 3 years?
Hmm. What has disturbed me the most has been probably the political divide.
Mhm.
And I think it has been both, a political issue and a public health issue. And what's disturbed me during that time is the tendency to describe or make decisions and draw conclusions about other people and why they make the choices they make, or why some people vote a certain way or believe in a certain kind of political agenda, or what they understand about healthcare. And I suppose it has saddened me too that during a time of multiple crises, that some of the tendency has been to draw conclusions about other people, that
Yes.
other people are not like me, other people are different to me. They decide on different, on the basis of very different values, and they
Yes.
don't respect my perspective, that type of mentality. And that has made me very sad, because I think one of the most powerful things we do as human beings is come together to tackle a problem.
Yes.
And, we don't let our differences get in the way. But over the last 2 or 3 years, it seems like differences have been highlighted, and it just is both disturbing and really saddening, because it's breaking down the fiber of communities. And I'm
Yes.
worried about that.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. The next question: if you had a theme song that played whenever you walked into a room full of people,
Oh my
what would
goodness.
it be? What would that song be?
Um, there's a Wow, so many choices. When I ask Alexa to play my favorites, I hope she doesn't start talking now, but when I ask Alexa to play my
Alexa's
likes,
always listening, right?
right, and you know the way when you say Alexa, play my likes, uh, I'm always surprised at how many songs there are. And my siblings, when I was growing up, would tease me because I would say, "Oh, I love this song," so often, and they would say, yeah, and the last 50
And the
that
last song.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was a musician and was a music teacher at one point. But there's a song, oh gosh, and I can't think of the name of it, but the song is basically wishing the best for the other person. Now I'll think of it maybe after the call, but it's, I wish everything for you. There's just something about that song. And it's not clear whether it's a goodbye song or it's just a person in love expressing that they want the
Yes.
best for the person. I don't know if it's Maroon 5 or who it is, but I'm going to think of it and email it to you. And
Wonderful.
or maybe it's Ed Sheeran. I'm not sure. It's, that kind of genre, but it's basically saying, I wish you everything. I
And
wish
that's the song that will play when you walk
then
into
yes, because that's how
wonderful.
I feel about other people and how I feel about being happy in the world. When
Yes.
I'm really happy, I'm just overflowing with joy for whatever person I meet. I
Wonderful.
feel that kind of energy in the world that I want them to have the best of everything, all their dreams come true, everything.
Yes. Thank you. Our world needs so much of that. Thank you. Okay. Your next question is, if I ask you your high school friends what they thought would be what you would be doing today, what would they say?
They probably would have said either a teacher or a psychologist,
Oh,
I think. And I was a teacher before I became a psychologist.
okay.
Yeah, they probably
Yep.
would have said that. They'd say, "Oh my goodness, I haven't heard of her in a long time." I do have a couple of friends from high school, but yeah, they probably would have said a teacher or a psychologist.
Great. Great. Thank you. Okay. If you have one t-shirt and one word on that t-shirt to wear for the rest of your life, which word would you choose to be on that t-shirt and why?
Oh, that's a great question. The word would be peace.
Yes.
I was struggling between peace and joy, but I chose peace because joy often has more of an internal and individual, self-orientation. Peace, on the other hand, can be an active word that actually impacts other
Yes.
people and helps them look at others as well, right? To look outwards and to act outwards. And peace suggests both an internal and an external state of being, but it also prompts action. And I'm very involved, for example, in the Division 48, the Society for Peace. I'm very involved in that division in APA, and I chair a small grant program for peace work, peace education, peace psychology. That's open to people throughout the world. I'm doing a little ad here, a little plug.
Plug ahead. Let's go.
This can apply, yes. At least half of the grants go to students and early career folks. But internal peace and then peace in our communities, I believe, is what's badly needed right now in Ukraine and everywhere. And I believe that peace is actually when it comes down to the interpersonal level, the personal and the interpersonal level, deeper than the community and the society level, is actually social emotional intelligence. It's social emotional skills, it's positive interaction with one another, it's conflict resolution, problem solving. And so I think it all is encapsulated in the concept of peace. So if there's anything I would wish for everyone in the world and for myself, it's internal peace and peace as a community.
That is wonderful. That is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so next we have which career which career did your parents want you to choose?
My mother would have wanted me to be a doctor, a physician.
Hmm.
My father actually wanted me to be whatever I wanted to be. I think at
Okay.
one point he was just very happy that I was studying music as part of what I was doing, but I don't think he had a specific career in mind for me.
Mhm.
I could see that he would have, not been surprised by my entry into teaching. He had a number of sisters who were teachers, but he also had a brother, a physician, and had sibling. He had a lot of siblings, and they were doing all different kinds of things. But I never got the sense from my father that there was anything specific that he would like me to do. He really strongly believed in the joy and satisfaction of work. Um, and that I think was what he was most concerned about, to be competent and functional and getting the satisfaction out of work. I never got the sense that there was anything in particular he wanted. Whereas my mother was pretty clear, oh, yes, be a doctor, go to college to study to be a doctor. What else is there?
Yes.
Very
There's
traditional
nothing
kind of
else. I
mentality. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like that. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, I will say she didn't really know as much about the educational applications, the college application system in Ireland at the time, because it wasn't the same as when she was in high school. And
Mhm.
so what she didn't know is that I never applied for medical school at all. She just presumed I did, but I, in fact, never applied. It wasn't on, it wasn't in one of my tab, but she to this day probably doesn't know that I didn't even apply. She just probably presumes I didn't get in.
And you never said anything about it, right?
Never included it, never applied, because I knew I was very squeamish and I just knew that I needed to have a stronger stomach to be able to. I can't watch, the very gory operation scenes
Yes.
in on TV shows. And I presumed, wrongly that it was all about surgery when in fact, it's not. I had an uncle, an orthopedic surgeon, and now I have a bunch of cousins who are doctors. But yeah, I didn't have. I thought, and my best friend from high school actually is a physician, and always intended to go to medical school. There was no other plan in her line of sight. But I just knew getting through medical school would be difficult. I knew that
Yes.
the patient component, of maybe being a general practitioner or being a psychiatrist would be fine, but I just knew I wouldn't get through the blood and guts of college,
I
of
understood.
medical school. And in Ireland, you have to apply right out of high school. You have to get in right out of high school.
Okay.
You don't do pre-med and then go on to medical school. You must go straight from high school and you have to get all A's in the 7 subjects, or whatever you're doing in order to get in. So it's,
Wow.
yeah, I worked hard in high school, but yeah, the blood and guts wasn't really what I was up for.
I am very sure you are right where you need to be, right?
I agree, Michael. Well said. I absolutely agree. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. What present did you purchase for someone else that you were most excited to see them open?
An interesting question. I love buying gifts, by the
Me
way.
too.
Love it. I just think you get as much as you give. Oh, for goodness sake, what? And I have 10 siblings, by the way. So
Wow.
my gift schedule and my card schedule is like pretty.
It's pretty serious.
Oh yeah, yeah. My calendar is like from year to year. I transfer in writing, by hand to my kitchen
Yes.
calendar. What gift? Paying someone's college loan debt.
Wow.
That was the most satisfied. Did that. They had a debt that was stopping them from proceeding
Hmm.
in college. And I have to say, it was just so satisfying to be able to see the barriers removed, because this person has done incredible things. And I remember seeing, what stopped them, how that debt accumulated and what happened.
Yes.
And I was so frustrated that this barrier was in their way. And I remember waking up one morning and thinking, wait a minute, right now at that moment, I have the means to remove this barrier. And I could see how much they were doing and how much they needed to finish their degree. And it was just, I was just so grateful. I think I got as much out of it as they did. And
Yes.
they have just, I feel like they're a person who's changing the world. I
That's
just think this
amazing.
person is incredible. Every time I follow them on social media and see what they're doing, it's been beyond what I even imagined at the time. And so I'm just so grateful for having the idea, for working through it, because that can be a difficult gift for a person to receive. And for
Yes.
they in fact were someone that I was working with at the time. And I remember thinking, well, that can, create a terrible power differential too. And it has worked out. I'm just, yeah. So that was a tremendous opportunity to be able to just do something that has gone beyond the little action that I could take.
Thank you. You gave a gift that continues to give.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely. This
so
person is an
honorable.
incredible
So noble.
individual.
Thank you for that.
Part of it, thank you for asking that question, because really part of it is believing and seeing what another person can do, and then realizing, oh, wait, we have the possibility to make this happen. I can't do all the things that this person is doing, but I can help do it by
Yes.
just removing this barrier. Yeah. And it's just to use a very American word, it is awesome to see with
Awesome.
this person how many
It
people this
is.
person is able to empower and help. It's just incredible.
You're extending yourself through someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love that question.
It's tremendous.
And
I'm
I
loving these
love your
questions.
answer.
They
Yes.
help me reflect and feel gratitude for what I've been fortunate enough to experience.
Yes. What present? I'm sorry. I love that question
You
so
wanted to
much.
go
I'm going to
again with
ask it
that one,
again.
right? It is a great question.
What is the hardest thing you've ever done?
Oh my goodness. That's an unusual question. What's the hardest thing I've ever done? Um, Feel the fear and do it anyway. I've
Yes.
done plenty of hard things, and um, I think the hardest thing has been to overcome my own fear, or to, as I say, feel the fear and do it anyway. Coming to the States, for example, way back in 1995, I remember thinking, okay, I think I'll do this master's program in school psychology. I didn't really know what it was, really. I
Oh,
thought it sounded
wow.
like a really good idea. I was a teacher. Still had this burning, deep passion for psychology. And I thought, oh, well, why not use it in schools? It seemed like a really good idea.
Mhm.
College in the United States compared to in other countries is just, I don't even have a word for how scary it is in terms of the pricing. It just, I mean, I remember my father asking me, what's the amount of your tuition for the year? Like, how do people pay for that? Like, what? And then I remember, eventually being a grad student and him asking after the first year, a grad assistant, and he said, people, read all the fine print and the red tape. People don't give away that kind of money for nothing. Like, are you sure? So the amount of money that it costs for tuition in the States is really shocking. And I
Yes.
remember feeling the fear and realizing that the only obstacle to me doing this was my fear of how much it would cost. And I realized that I would regret it if that was the only reason that I didn't do it.
Yes.
I didn't even have a clear idea of what in the world I was trying to do. And people would say, you're doing what? You're going to move. I took a career break from a teaching job in Ireland and took out a bank loan and all these things, or a credit union loan. But so feeling the fear and doing that was one example. And then trying each time I have an idea to do something, or each time something is just difficult, the most difficult thing to do is to handle my own fear and anxiety around doing it. And then just keep putting one foot in front of the other and
Yes.
doing it. I think as adults, for me anyway, the hardest thing is just managing myself, and my own issues.
Yes.
The world isn't nearly as difficult sometimes as I think I am. It's like, okay,
Yes.
just get on with it. And sometimes we think things are easier to do than they are. And feeling some compassion for ourselves and how difficult it feels. It's okay if it feels difficult to you. It might not be something that's difficult to other people, but it's important to know that it's difficult for you. And the difficulty often is in dealing with fear, dealing with your own anxiety. And so that's where I have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and going, oh, I don't want to have to do the hard thing. And then trying to do the hard thing anyway.
Yes. Understood. Thank you. What advice would you provide to future clinicians, scholars about learning to navigate difficult topics and dialogues and creating safe spaces? And why is this important?
The piece of advice I have is from my own clinical work, working in therapeutic day schools outside Chicago, and working with the clients that come, right, that the universe brings to me. The piece of advice I have is to realize that with every client, even with every encounter, you learn something that's tremendously valuable. I have learned so much and increased my skills so much because I trusted that the client was there to teach me something. Mm-hmm. That the client knows the answer when I don't, that the client, that together with the client, we will figure it out. And trusting the client, and bringing, my clinical skills to the scenario. Like sometimes you can trust that you're not right for a client, right? And connect your Wi-Fi network. Sorry, my Alexa is now having her.
Okay.
I apologize.
We were just talking about her.
She wants to join the session, yes. So trusting that even in a situation where I'm bringing my skills and a client is sort of hinting, suggesting non-verbally that, oh, maybe I'm not a good match, trusting that that's the reality, or trusting that the awareness, the knowledge will come if I stay current, if I stay up on my professional skills, my reading, my consultation with others, and then trusting that the client brings a very important piece to the session, and that I have learned, I'm grateful for how much I've learned from every single encounter in clinical work. It's a tremendous honor to be given that much involvement in a person's life. It's a tremendous honor and privilege for someone to trust you with their innermost challenge, with their innermost life, and honoring that trust and, treating it very carefully amounts to trust and respect in and of itself, and knowing that that's what the client brings to you, and we have to meet them there with the same amount of trust and respect. I have learned so much from every client.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Well said.
Thank you.
Okay. The last question that we have is, often students visualize the glamour of your position, but do not recognize there's a price called sacrifice. What did, or what have you sacrificed for your current role as the associate campus dean?
What an interesting question. Two things. One is time. I sacrifice a lot of time, not because the job necessarily asks for more than, what an average person puts into their week, but because of the opportunity. I have a tremendous team. I'm just very grateful to work with such great department chairs. I supervise the online department chairs and the writing center and the senior director of training, clinical training. What have I sacrificed? It's easier to say what I've gained, but yeah, I am I'm actually on PTO today, technically.
Oh,
But this was an important call for me. And so I sacrificed time. But you also, to do the job the way I want to do it, I also sacrifice um what's the word? Maybe privacy, because
okay.
I'm very full on. Like I'm very in with both feet with my team. And so they know me very well. And I think that's emotionally um, not draining, but it's an emotional load to carry.
Okay.
To have such a healthy culture in online, I believe I have to be very transparent and very committed and to have solid personal relationships with each of my team. And if that's the kind of an administrative role you want, that's what it takes. And that's a lot. I think I have 12 people that I supervise, and that's a lot of people to supervise. And so it can be very, um, I'm trying to find the right word, but it's a lot to be that very involved with each member of the team and to give what each relationship requires.
Yes.
And so it's heavy work in that sense. Um, but it helps me feel authentic in the work. And
Yeah.
it's the way I do it. I'm all in or full on, whatever, term you want to use. And it would be easier if I just had 4 department chairs, it wouldn't be as much. And because online is so fast paced, it's very demanding. Um, I found when I was the Dean of Academic Affairs in Chicago, it was also very demanding, but online is on all the time.
All the time.
I think,
Yes.
yeah. And I think many universities are finally going to realize that actually that's what's needed to fully support students. So there's not going to be as much difference between online and on ground in the future. That's what I would guess or predict. But yeah, so being on all the time and constantly having the needs of the team or what's going on in a program or what they're trying to accomplish in a program, always having that on in the back of the mind, running. It's almost like a clinician, right?
Yes.
It's sort of, when you're on call, if one of your clients calls, you're ready, you're present in that moment. You don't have to sort of gather yourself and switch, you know how to switch it on right away. As an associate dean, I do feel like we're always ready to attend to whatever the need is. And that can have its own, requirements and be quite demanding, but the payoff is so worth it.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's, while I never intended to become an administrator, that wasn't sort of a career goal. It has been an opportunity for me to empower other people. I found that it's a role where I can bring people together and to remove barriers from their paths, which is a very important thing for me in life. I have found
Yes.
that I get tremendous joy out of removing barriers because people can do tremendous things. Actually, now that makes me realize why that gift. These are tremendous questions because
Thank
the
you.
reflection I'm so grateful for. It's really interesting to think about, oh, that's what I was trying to do then as well. Removing barriers is an empowering experience. And it does require seeing the potential that people have.
Yes.
And this role, if you take it this way, administration and higher education, you can take it as a power top down role, or you can take it as an empowering bottom up kind of role. And that's how I experience it. And that just is incredibly generative. You know, it's all, you wake up each day with possibilities, and the department chairs and the faculty and the staff all bring different ideas and say, I wonder if we could, or, you know, I had this idea. It's fantastic to work with people who have ideas
Yes,
all the time
yes.
and who, you know, are able to make students, provide students with programs that make them as happy as you are. You know, it's just,
Oh,
it's
thank you.
an incredible gift to hear that kind of joy and to be able to problem solve because it creates possibilities. So
Yes.
that's kind of a long answer to that question, but it was
Okay.
actually an opportunity to connect a lot of different elements of how I do what I do and the answers I gave to the other questions.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure, Michael. They were great questions. Thank you for
Uh,
the opportunity to reflect.
it's been wonderful. So, Dr. McGrath, it's just been so wonderful talking with you. Um, Prior to this, I didn't know much about you. And I think that is the power of having the courageous conversations and the big 10 questions is that we're getting to know each other as a campus and we're not foreign to each other. And it just brings us closer. And I'm happy to be a part of this. And the next person that will receive the big 10 questions will be a student. And you will conduct the interview,
Oh,
asking them the
lovely.
next 10 big questions. Yes. And
Oh,
from
what a
there,
pleasure.
it will go to another faculty member and it will go from faculty to student. And it's going to be amazing because we're going to keep the ball rolling and we're going to learn so much from each other and about each other, only to find out we're the same. We have different experiences, different backgrounds. We're from different countries, but we are the same. And we're all in this field for the same reasons, and that is to make change, to better lives, to strengthen families, to make this world a better place. I thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to find out who the next student is going to be. I've been telling everyone it's going to be you, it's going to be you, you know.
This is such a pleasure, Michael. I really appreciate meeting you. You're an amazing person.
Oh,
Our
thank you
conversation
so
was just
much.
so wonderful. Yes, I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to connecting again and
Yes.
really appreciate the questions that you asked, and the reflection has just been such a pleasure, such a gift. I'll be thinking about this for the rest of the day and
Oh,
probably,
thank you.
yeah. I hope you have a wonderful residency. I think you're going to enjoy
I
every second of
will.
it.
I'm happy to finally be in residency and I'm enjoying the practicals and getting there. So it's going to be a
Oh,
very busy
great.
weekend. But the way I see it, I get to work out with the best. A lot of the faculty is going to be there. So this is really going to be amazing.
Oh,
Again, thank
enjoy
you.
every
Thank you
minute.
for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I can't wait to see your interview that you will give to a student. It's going to be wonderful.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking
Great.
forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.